In an age of heavy attempts at erasure, visual artists and photographers Michael Davis and Douglas Shindler are making leaps and bounds to preserve for the future remembrance of all things Black. They are the masterminds behind the Black Library, a collaborative, community-driven project with a mission to celebrate Black culture and history for the citizens of Sullivan County, New York, and all those who will visit. In this episode, we are joined by these two creators as they discuss infusing their personal stories into their art, the urgency to create a space that highlights the contributions of the people of Monticello, New York, and what it was like when they received the call that they had won a $400,000 grant to bring the Black Library to life. Stay with us for another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. Are you currently looking for a bookstore that has a great selection of books? Well, Kizzy's Books and More is that bookstore. Visit www.kizzy'sbooksandmore.com to purchase your next book for our book club. Use coupon code VulgarGenius to receive 10% off the subtotal of your first order. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Vulgar Geniuses podcast. We are your hosts.
My name is Denny.
And I am Veronica. And today, this is a very special podcast. I always say this. I know but people who talk, every podcast is a very special one, but this one in particular is
different.
It's the most specialist, if I can say this. Is a word I'm making up. But yes, this particular episode is a part of our Black History feature. We like to do a creator, an artist, someone that is not specifically a writer, which you all know that we focus on, to come in and talk about what they have created. And today we are joined by the creators of the Black Library. Their names are Douglas Shindler and Michael Davis. So a little information on this creation and who they are. The Black Library's mission is to celebrate Black culture and history, as well as create a collaborative, creative, and educational atmosphere for the residents of Sullivan County, New York. The Black Library will carry a diverse collection of books for Black authors, exhibit visual art by Black artists, offer educational workshops for children and adults, and host talks and community discussions. Welcoming local residents and visitors of all backgrounds, the project will promote greater understanding of Black history and culture, advocate for racial justice in Sullivan County and beyond, and act as an incubator for the next generation of local artists. Now, the two men who are the creators who are behind this wonderful project is Douglas Shindler and Michael Davis. Douglas Shindler is a painter and photographer based in Sullivan County, New York. Shindler's work addresses themes of violence, street life, sport, and community. His images center the underrepresented and the overlooked. Shindler has been a practicing artist since 2013. Michael Davis is a Guyanese-American photographer based in Monticello, New York. Davis's photographs capture moments of aggression, honesty, vulnerability, and strength. He has been a practicing artist since 2009. DJ, Mike, thank you so much for joining us in conversation today to talk about the Black Library.
Yes, folks.
So cool.
You heard it right.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate y'all.
Welcome to our show.
This is the dopest thing that I have seen since, here learning about the Schomburgs. Like this, literally, to see it in our generation of something of this stature, and how it came to be. And we're now speaking to the people who have created it. So just thank you so much for coming onto the show and talking to us about it. But before we head down that pathway, we like to get you all loosened up with a few questions before we start. So I'm going to pass it off to Denny. Take it away.
Yes. These are questions from friends and, inquiring minds. We call them like the little hot seat questions. So, DJ and Mike, your house is on fire. What photograph and book are you gonna take with you, and why?
Man, one photo. Sheesh. Okay, so the photo I'm gonna take, there's a picture of me when I was 2 years old, holding my mom's hand, and my dad was on my other side, and we were all smiling. That's the one picture I'd take. And the one book that I would take, um, is probably Tyler Mitchell's photo book. The name of it is slipping my mind right now, but Tyler Mitchell's photo book I'd probably take with me.
All right, Mike, your turn. What you taking?
I'd have to say I'd take this very small framed picture of my mother and my grandmother uh, outside in Guyana when my mother was young. She was probably a little bit younger than I am right now, but I have very few frames of reference of my mom being outside. Like she was outside for real. She had her makeup done and her dress on, and I don't know the occasion, but it was a really nice picture. So I'd probably go with that. And ironically enough, I'd probably take The Burning House by Foster Huntington, which is a literal photo book about this very subject. So I would probably just read everybody else's choices with my free time at that point.
Is that book like asking that question to other people?
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Oh,
it's this guy that it's a long story. I don't want to go in on too much of a tangent, but this young man that used to work for Ralph Lauren as a designer uh, ultimately left his position there and moved out west and lived in a treehouse and wrote a few books. In that time, he kind of like started the whole van life hashtag thing. That's now like very widely popular. And his second book was The Burning House, in which he asked a bunch of people in his travels from coast to coast what they would take if their house was on fire. And funny, one of the photographers I work with is featured in the book, which is why I have it. But that's a funny question, I think.
That's what's up. So you have already known this answer. So
I was ready. I was ready for it.
like, let me pull that out from my back pocket just in case.
all prepared and whatnot. Nobody had to think about that. Y'all already knew.
Yes, I had to think about that when I was like, what book would you take? I'm like, shit. So for DJ, if you were to take a combination of your work and liken it into an album or MC, what would that look like?
If I were to take my work and liken it to an artist, a rap
Yeah.
Yeah,
artist,
so if you like the culmination of all your work, you would be like, this particular album represents that, or
This is a good question for DJ.
this MC.
it is a great question for me. I'm definitely a hip hop head. Um, like off the cuff, I do want to say, oh man, it's a Kendrick album either way, and I don't know if it's To Pimp a Butterfly or if it's Good Kid, Mad City, because I think half my work right now is To Pimp a Butterfly and half of it is Good Kid, Mad City. And then a portion of it is Be by Common. So like I don't really know which one of those to pick, but um, man, let's see. That was a great question.
That is a really good question.
He's like
It is.
reevaluating his life choices right now.
I am. This was harder than like my house is on fire and I have to pick something. This is look, the first bead of sweat just dropped. I'm like, man, what is it?
You know how to pick now. I think you've illustrated a good, a good landscape for the people that are listening.
Yeah, that gives them a good idea of like, oh, okay, I can see that in his work. If they've seen your stuff, they're like, okay, yeah.
So for Mike, the biggest fashion trend that you regret taking part in.
Oh, this is a good one for me too, I think, because I'm a little bit older. So I've had a run of some bad stuff. Um, geez, there was a lot of like wild stuff going on around like 2013 ish, I think. If I would say, I had like this purple kick for a while, and I totally kind of regret that a little bit. It was my last year in high school, and it wasn't like a thing, but I kind of got known for it, like the kid that wore purple a lot. And I don't think I needed to be in that space. Just being real. Uh, so so yeah, that's probably one thing I would take back. I think about it now, and almost every photograph I have from that time period, I was wearing a purple outfit, like jeans and everything. It was bad. Colored jeans is definitely high up on that bar of things I would like to take back.
Were you
Definitely.
purple down, like purple shirt, purple pants, purple shoes?
Yeah, nah, it was real. Like it wasn't all one purple. I mixed it up a little bit. Like it'd be like tones of black or white in there, but it was a lot of purple, like heavily purple. I think somebody referred to me as the Kool-Aid guy once. And so yeah, I totally take that back if I could.
I find this
Yo.
particularly funny because the very first artist that we had on the show is a friend of mine. His name is Jonathan Fro Perry. He's a graffiti artist in Seattle or outside of Seattle. And he is fascinated with the color purple. He loves colors. Naturally, he's an artist, but that color purple, he does what you just described. And it's something that I'm just like, you gotta let this go.
Yeah, good for him. I couldn't venture back into that space, I don't think. But that was tough. Those were tough times.
You know
You
what's
know,
funny is around the same time, I actually I did had purple pants and a purple hoodie that I wore all the time. And it's probably around
Mm,
the same time. Like that's hilarious. This happens to me and Mike
yeah,
all the time, by the way. We kind of match
we do that a
just
lot.
randomly.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird,
it's actually
honestly.
strange. Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
little
Oh,
strange.
see, meant to be.
also,
There's times where people will ask if we coordinated, and we have to like convince them that we didn't. Very
minds
strange.
think alike.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll take that.
Purple is my favorite color. No hate to the color purple, but
And it's our notes. Our notes are in purple. So this is meant to be today.
Oh, see,
Hey.
I once resonated there too, for sure.
Do y'all remember the first picture that you took in your camera? Or if not the first, the first significant thing that you're like, oh, this is something.
I definitely remember. I don't remember the first exact picture, but I remember the first series of pictures because it was Mike Bloom's photography one class, and we had to practice the technical aspects of the camera. But the first pictures that made me fall in love with photography, I don't know if I could say exactly. I know the year was 2016, but I don't think I could say the exact shoot. But I was shooting with my friends Mark Chance, um, Fajara, and Olivia a lot around the time. So shout out to them because around that time is when I started to really fall in love with photography.
I remember well, I could tell you kind of, but I have like a abnormally good memory. But so the first picture I actually took with my first camera was a photograph of my mom because that was the first person that was around me. So yeah, she was in her bedroom, and I like walked in and like surprise snapped her because she wouldn't let me take an actual photo. So that was the actual first photo. The first photo that I remember kind of being significant again was in Michael Bloom's photo class. Me and DJ took that class together, and we used to do like a lot of urban exploration at this time. So I would kind of like break into abandoned buildings and stuff that I wasn't supposed to be in, and take pictures in those with some friends. And I took like a silhouetted shot of a friend of mine in an abandoned mall, and the ground kind of looked really glassy because it was flooded but frozen. We went in the wintertime, and I turned in that photo for homework, and I didn't go to class that day. But I remember or I think it was DJ that told me that Bloom said that he wished he took the photo, and I thought that that was really
Yeah,
cool.
I remember that
Um,
photo vividly too.
yeah, that was probably. I mean, yeah, that would be it for sure. And I remember like getting shot down on like so many photos that I brought to Bloom like earlier. Like, look at this, look, this is good, right? And he's like, nah, I mean, yeah, I guess. And to get to get a definitive answer, I think that was like me breaking through at some point. So I thought that was cool.
Do y'all remember when was the first time you actually was brought into a library?
Not the first time, but I remember for sure going to the local library in Monticello somewhat often. My mom would bring me, and I would go on the computers and stuff. This had to be like 2002 or 2003. So, I was just like looking at images that are like loading like bar by bar, and I'm like, this is so cool. So, and I know I would check out comic books and stuff like that all the time. So,
The first library that I remember going to was probably the E.B. Crawford Library in town. I say that because that was the first time I actually was a member of a library. So I've been in libraries like in Brooklyn all throughout, like the first 5-6 years of my life prior to moving upstate. But the library for my town was the first time I was an actual member at a library. So that's the one that I remember the most. And it was a pretty interesting experience. I kind of like always liked the building itself, the facade of the building. It seemed like a kind of like an old house with like a brick front. And I didn't really know what was in it until I went inside, and it was like wall to wall books with 2 floors. And I thought that was a really cool space.
So now, I'm sure the folks wanted to know how did a Black library come about? Like, how did this all start for you all?
well, so it was it COVID season yet? No, it was just
It was
before COVID
pre-COVID.
season, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
right
just
before that.
before COVID. So it had to be 2019. Um, and I was working at the Hurleyville Performing Arts Center, which they'll tie in later on. But it's working at the Hurleyville Performing Arts Center. It's kind of just like their event photographer, and I also popped their popcorn because they showed movies. Um, and I kind of just went to them because one of my coworkers, Dara, was like, "Hey, they got like an empty 2-bedroom apartment in the building above the gallery, because they also have a gallery across the street." So I kind of just went to the executive director at the time and was like, "Hey, like if y'all aren't using that space, you might as well just let me use it as a painting studio and a photo studio." So they gave it to me, and I gave my friend Gabe one room to make music in, and then I took the other room, and it was kind of like my painting and photo studio. Um, and Mike would come through all the time, and he would do photo shoots, or he would just kind of kick it while I was painting. And we would just like chat and whatnot. And I started amassing a collection of Black literature, and it was kind of just in my photo studio. And we had started talking about the books, and I kind of was just like, hey, we should like try and start like a Black book club or something like that, where we all like read the same book, or maybe we just all swap books and talk about the books that we read and stuff. And then that idea kind of grew from there into being like a Black library. Um, and then once our grant period came along, it evolved even more to being a library and an art space, a community art space. So, but that was the birth of the idea. It was just kind of me and Mike sitting around, painting photos and painting, taking pictures, and just talking about the books that we had.
There's this photographer by the name of Philip Kwame Appiah. Have you all heard of him before?
Not by name.
He's from Ghana, and I found a post from a documentary that he was in that had the captions in it, and it resonated with me so much. It's part of like my mood board pin on Pinterest. And he made a very bold statement, and he said, if you don't photograph yourself, you die forever. Nobody remembers you, nobody knows you, and you are doing it for the future remembrance. When I look at not only your photography, but your work with the Black Library, one can truly get the sense of you all living out this sentiment within your community. What does preservation mean for the Black Library as well as your individual selves?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it really is. To me, it means a lot just because I have a huge struggle with like existentialism. Like I feel like I send myself into like a crippling panic attack every so often. And by every so often, I mean, yeah, like damn near daily. Just like kind of freaking out about what happens after. So I had actually, that's probably breaking news. It's probably my next photo project. It has to do with like existentialism and what's the actual word that I'm looking for? Kind of like, man, I can't remember this word for some reason, but it just means it's like just a word for something that, you know, eventually will just go away over time. And that's probably what my next photo series will be about. Um, but I also had started taking a lot of photos, or tried to take a lot of photos of my family. Like when my uncle was here, he lives down south. I like made sure I took photos of him because I'm about to have a daughter, and like I want her to be able to see all these people, so I could be like, this is that person, this is that person, because it's like really important to me to just like have a remembrance of who all these people were that are family members, and like who they were as people, what they did, and things of that nature. Not to be too long-winded, but I assisted Mike Bloom, who was our photo professor, on a shoot, and this man that we were interviewing, he like had his entire wall was all pictures of his family, and he was just like, "Oh, this is my great 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 uncle, and this is my great great aunt, and this is my aunt, and this is her sister, and this is her cousin, and this is that person." And then later that night, I cried myself to sleep because I'm just like, I don't have this. You know what I mean? I have like my circle, who's like my mom, dad, grandparents, and that's kind of like it. You know what I mean? Like my grandparents is kind of where it stops. Um, so it just, you know, that moment really struck a chord with me, and ever since then I kind of have really wanted to make sure that I get enough photos of people around me, and that I can, you know, share them with the future self and future people that are going to be around, like my daughter and whoever else.
Um, so I kind of like, I guess, subconsciously always had like the importance of preservation in mind. Not necessarily my actual introductory to uh, working in photography, but my introductory to the ideas of what pictures were through my parents. My dad took a lot of pictures when we were kids, and literally has duffel bags of them still. And you know, every couple of years there would be this really spontaneous day where we might like go through a few, you know, pounds of pictures, and a lot of them span back from, you know, prior to him even being in this country. So you know, there's that bit of documentation there, and I always kind of like understood that this is one of the easiest ways to have a visualization of what um, your parents or even ancestors were experiencing. So I kind of just I felt like I always had an understanding of that, and when I started working in photography, I kind of really understood the importance of it. So like even now, I don't think there's going to be a day where I feel like I didn't take enough pictures. Um, just being real, I think that you know, because I've had friends that's passed, and the first thing I think of is like, oh, I wish I had more memories, or you know, family. Like I wish I had more pictures. And even now, I've been kind of like starting to collect my own little you know, like album for people in my family, outside of photos that I even took, just for that idea of remembrance. Because like DJ said, I don't have too much of that prior to my grandparents, and I didn't even know all of my grandparents. So I would like to start strong for generations to come in my family.
What made you guys realize and decide that, oh, this is what this community need, this is a resource, you know, that New York needs? And how has been like the people's response towards the Black Library?
I'll just say a little bit because I feel like Mike gives the best description on why we feel the community needs it. But it's just something that we just never had, you know what I mean? So we want to provide that. Like there's the area that we live in Monticello, and Sullivan County in general, there's like it's one of those places where we just got a casino here like a couple years ago, but I mean even that it's just like people you know, but anyway, we live in one of those areas where people kind of go to Walmart for fun, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing else to do. Even in terms of like basketball courts, I think the last basketball court in town that's like active with hoops because they took the hoops down in the other court is the one where I live, and that one the ground is like uneven and broken up, so it's just kind of like, you know, there's really not much here. And our job market is really bad here. A huge percentage of people, I think 27% of people live below the poverty line here. So our job market is really bad, but we just wanted to create a space because we're both artists where we can help people realize what else there is out there, you know what I mean, and help other people find success within the arts. And even without the arts, we have a lot of programming that we want to do that's not art related. So yeah, we just want to kind of build that place that we needed when we were growing up for the people who are growing up now and the people who are adults now as well too. So
And what about
Yeah.
how it's being received by the community?
I think the community has been extremely excited about it. It's, you know, we live in a fairly small town village that resides in a town, and then there's a bunch of other small kind of towns around it. So our network is really kind of made up within the county, and just seeing the reach that we've had in other towns outside of where we live, I think has been incredibly motivating and inspirational all along. You know, the further west you get in Sullivan County in New York, to be, you know, really frank, the less Black people you see. And we even have engagement out there right now. So I think that this has been, you know, a bit of an eye opener and a bit of a indicator that we are in like a different space and time for our area. And I think some real progressive change is ready to happen. Like DJ said, we absolutely lack that in Monticello. Oh, by the way, we pronounce it. We keep saying Monticello, but the way that you pronounce it earlier is the grammatical correct way to pronounce it. Monticello. It is based off of Thomas Jefferson's estate, so it is the same name, spelling and pronunciation. We just choose not to go by that. But yeah, we definitely it's unprecedented. You know, the number one thing that kind of opens up for us are food establishments, and there's a lot of them, and we still kind of live in a food desert. So I don't know how much that's really doing for us in the long run. And I think that we need just this hub to collaborate and congregate and, you know, bounce creative ideas off each other in order to, you know, further ourselves in our own crafts.
What is it about the city that you all reside in that you want to stay, that keeps you there? Because you all have, you know, some people would say, well, you could go off and you could do whatever. What is it that really is like, we got to do this here and we got to stay planted?
well, it's just, you know, growing up here, um, I I talk a lot pretty often about what grew my appreciation for the area, which was I went away to purchase college. It's about an hour and a half from here, and I would come home every weekend to work. And I had started a photo project called The Day I Went Home. And I would come back and I would take photographs of basically like all around Sullivan County and just photograph all the rundown buildings and kind of show like so I could show a really raw look on what our county is really like. And then kind of to juxtapose the buildings, I started taking really beautiful portraits of people that live here. So I was just like contrasting the rundown nature of the area with the very beautiful portraits of the people who live here to kind of show like here's where the beauty lies within the people. But that project really grew my appreciation for the area, and it made me want to stay here. And I mean, I love where I live. It's just there's so many issues here that need to be resolved, and I really feel like this project is the first step to resolving those issues. Because if we find success here, then other organizations and other projects can also then find success after us. And both of us, not to speak for Mike, but we just know so many incredible people who live here that just need an outlet, or just need that push, or just need a space to be in, to find their success. So I want to stay here and help with that.
I'm going to be completely honest. For me, I kind of just kept getting trapped here after high school. I graduated, and obviously am dead broke at the tender age of 17, fresh out of high school. So I worked a couple of like retail jobs, and then I went to school. And after, well, school was kind of like really transformative for me. There was a lot of things that were happening at that time, and one of them was pretty much all of my friends that were, my peers at the time, artistically kind of uprooted and moved out west. And I had the choice to kind of go or stay and finish school. And I was like, I'm just going to stay and finish school. This is the path of least resistance for me. So, in doing that, I kind of changed my life, because that was the timing where everything started to open up for me and things started to flourish. And, after directly kind of like sort of transitioning out of college was when I got my opportunity to work in the industry, and have been an interior design photographer working with some pretty incredible talent for the past 7 years now. So, and now this is happening. So it's just kind of like, well, a few years ago, I kind of gave up and was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be. Like, like I'm just taking it in at this point. I'm not getting stuck. I'm not looking at it as stuck. This is where I'm supposed to be. So that's kind of how I look at it. And, it's funny that you even asked that, because there's like this, this like folklore that where we live has this like electromagnetic pull that brings people back when they leave. It doesn't matter where, and even like traveling to other places, I bump into people from Monticello in the strangest places. I swear, it's so weird. So it's like there's definitely a high energy connectivity between the people that occupy that place, and a high energy connectivity between the people that live there and the place itself, I think. So it definitely got me good. But I'm proud for everything that I've been able to achieve here, and all the opportunities that I've been granted and blessed with, especially the library project we're in right now. So I couldn't be more grateful for the environment that we did come up in.
That's what's up. That truly makes me happy, because it's easy for people to want to feel like they need to escape, no matter where they are from. They probably, when you're young, you feel like, okay, it's time for me to grow my wings and fly, and you feel like you can't do those things that you are imagining for yourself in the place that you reside. But knowing that you all have created this space for people to enjoy and to learn and to thrive in, shows that the city isn't dead and that there's much life there. And so this, I'm sure if I lived there, I would be very grateful to have that in my city.
When did the love
Also,
of art start? Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say the contrast really did it for me too. like DJ was mentioning, being away at school and then coming back home and just having uh, that visual uh, ability to differentiate your environment. I think that was something that really did it for me in my work. I do a lot of travels, and there's been times where I've like quite literally had dinner with like a millionaire and then was sitting on the stoop in the hood in less than 24 hours back home. So, that kind of like dramatic, dramatic, contrast, I think really, really does uh, light the fire and motivate somebody to do something better for their they live in.
So where did this love of art start for you both? And like when did you decide, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is like my lifelong calling.
For me, I've always kind of drawn as a kid, and when I was a kid, I was like really good at reproducing pictures and stuff. But I would also make up my own like stories and things like that. But it was very like on and off for me. But I guess even as a kid, it was kind of always my backup plan if I didn't, move out west and learn how to be a wrestler and wrestle for the WWE. I'm like, yeah, I'll just make art if that's not what I do. And then after that, I was like, I found out what mixed martial arts was, and I was like, new career path. I'm gonna be a mixed martial artist. That's it. And if I fail as a fighter, then I got art as a backup plan. But at that time, I actually at the same time as training as like a mixed martial artist, I was actually taking art very seriously at the same time, because I was like, this should actually seriously be my backup plan. So I had seen this guy on Instagram who was really, really good at drawing portraits. And I was like, I need to be better than this dude, because this is like incredible what he's doing. So I just need to get better than him at this. Especially back then when I was 17, I had a super competitive brain. So that's just how it worked. I was just like, I need to be better than this guy. Um, so I started drawing portraits every single day. I would be in English class drawing portraits, and social studies drawing portraits. The teachers would be cool because I was passing their class. As long as I passed their tests, they would just let me sit there and make art. Which, shout out to all my teachers who sat there and let me make art in class, because that helped me get to where I am right now. But and then shout out to Mr. Johansson specifically, because he taught me about what CTE is and made me not want to be a fighter anymore. So I just was like, it's art full time now. So yeah, without Mr. Yo, I probably would not have
You'd have
stopped trying to fight.
brain damage.
Yeah.
I would. But yeah, that's kind of like the start for me. And going to school at Purchase really, like, I don't know, it really expanded my mind when it came to art. Um, Shout out to all my professors at Purchase, Josh and Sharon. They helped me so much. They helped me grow as an artist like exponentially. It's crazy, but um, my love for art just keeps growing and growing over time. So
Like I started as an illustrator. I would illustrate when I was younger, mainly replicating cartoons and things like that. Mainly because I didn't have a whole lot of things to do, and that kept me out of trouble. And it wasn't something that you needed someone else to do with. My brothers were always outside and not necessarily around me, so that was a good pastime for me at the time. But nobody told me that you can make money doing that. Actually, I didn't know that pretty much my whole life. There's nobody that really pointed us in that direction, and it wasn't until I kind of like stumbled into photography, which is a bit of a long-winded story, but I honestly bought my first camera because my friend had a camera and told me he wouldn't let me use it. So I was like, I got to get my own, and that's how that happened, and it turned into all of this. The best petty moment of my life, probably, but
Yes.
for sure. But I think the thing that's really interesting about that is uh, I don't necessarily claim that I grew up as an artist, even though I was always interested in art related things. Um, I kind of stumbled into it, and I think a lot of the people that I grew up with kind of did the same thing. I grew up skateboarding, and a lot of my peers and friends that I grew up with were skaters as well. But almost all of those people are actually involved in the arts right now, and some are pretty accomplished. And if even if they're not, they're incredibly talented. So I just think it was a weird thing that all of my friends that I grew up with doing something completely different and something in a realm of physicality kind of redirected and focused all of their creativity into their own crafts. And there's a bit of a team of us now that came out of nowhere, and it was due to nobody, looking up at the stars at 8 year olds saying that we wanted to be artists. It's just all happened. Um, I think that was pretty amazing.
To the Black Library, you all were awarded a $400,000 grant from the Mellon Foundation to help with the creation of the Black Library. Walk us through the day that you all found out that you won the grant, and what has the planning process been like for you two since starting this whole thing?
So I can start with the day, and DJ can go into the planning, I think, because that would make more sense. So the process of us actually pursuing this thing was about half a year all on its own. So from the winter of 2021 into kind of like the summer of last year was all the developmental stages of this, from the actual inception of the idea to getting together in meetings and formulating how we're going to do this, to actually applying for the grant, and then the interview process that followed that. It was a really kind of extensive period of time for us. So we didn't really know what to expect, and we knew that there was a lot of applicants. Um, Me personally, I'm like a big person that believes in. I honestly believe in it so much that I hate using the word now because it's so like destroyed. Manifestation. I'm a huge believer in the idea of willing uh, thoughts into reality. So after we applied, it was kind of just like already done, and there was never another version in my mind where we didn't get the grant. So I think that like it wasn't really as much of a surprise to me as I would have liked it to be, but still, getting the call that night, it was probably like 7 or 8, and I remember I was in my bathroom. I think I was shaving or something, and my phone rings, and I see it's Tall, and I knew something was up because Tall never calls me. We have a group text that we communicate in, or we'll do emails, but Tall never really calls me one on one. So I'm like, all right, this is strange. So I picked it up, and he's like, "Are you sitting down?" And I'm like, "Man, why are you doing it like this?" And I was like, "Did we get it? Did we get it?" And then he gives me a pause, and he's like, "We got it." And then I was really happy. He explained that he tried to call DJ and he couldn't get a hold of him. I think DJ was playing ball or something. And you know, I was like, I'll try to call him, but if not, it's up to you. Like, I don't even want to give him the news. So I think that was, the initial night that we received all of that. But I would like to say that even after getting that, there's been like a lot of sort of like benchmarks or milestones or new bars that we reached in this process for the past year or so. And DJ and I kind of never actually took the time to process any of it or really celebrate, um, which goes to show, I guess, how invested we really are in the progression of it. Um, but yeah, even I found that bottle of champagne, DJ. DJ was gifted a
Oh
bottle.
my
We were
God.
gifted a bottle of champagne. We were each respectively gifted bottles of champagne by a friend of ours. A couple of weeks before we got the news, it was to celebrate a show that DJ organized, I should say, last year at the Hurleyville Gallery. And yeah, like it's so real that we've got the he gave us the champagne, and like we lost it. Like, like I didn't even know where. I just rediscovered it in my house. I guess I brought DJ's bottle home because he wasn't going to do anything with it anyways. And like that was last year, and that's just kind of, we just kept our head down whenever we got good news and just was on to the next thing with it. But DJ can tell you a little bit more about the planning behind it.
Yeah. Which I meant to say earlier actually that that show uh was the day I went home project that I mentioned earlier about photographing people and places here and home. I had curated Michael's work and then another photographer, Tyler Sanford, that lives here. I had curated both of their works that I felt like worked really well with my work that I was doing, and put it all together for the show. Meant to mention that earlier, but yeah, the planning. I mean, I feel like we jumped right in. The process of writing the grant gave us a really good place to start from. So like the first day that we were able to publicly announce, which was July 1st, we found out in June, and I think we had a good 2 weeks, was it, before we could announce it. So we kind of just had to keep it in the tuck. Otherwise, we'd get disqualified from the grant if we announced it early. So July 1st, we just dove right in. I had made a couple like flyers and we had started a book drive. We had got in contact with our public library here and they agreed to be our drop-off point if people wanted to drop off physical donations instead of doing donations through the registry online. That's the E.B. Crawford Library in Monticello. And from there, we all met up at HPAC. HPAC is the Hurleyville Performing Arts Center. So I should say they're our fiscal sponsor. So we had to apply for the grant with them because they're a nonprofit organization. So they're like our parent nonprofit that we're attached to. So we're a project of the Hurleyville Performing Arts Center. So we had went over to HPAC with Tall, and he kind of just helped us organize a little bit, get our thoughts about the project together. I mean, we spent a lot of hours kind of just developing our like thought processes and things. Like we made like this flow chart that we call like the cycle of change, and it's kind of like step by step how we change the community. We sat there and thought about the different age ranges that we want and different programs that would appeal to different age ranges and different like types of people, and what would appeal to us specifically, and made a bunch of programming. I mean, we've done a lot and we've had a ton of meetings. So we met with a lot of local organizations, a lot of people around the county, just kind of opening up the doors for future collaborations or seeing how they can help us. Some people kind of seeing how we can help them. And yeah, I mean, at this point now we're still really in the planning phase. So at this moment, we're kind of just planning out the opening of the space and the building out of the space.
For those who may be listening and want to contribute, what would be the best way to help move the Black Library to where you all want it to be?
So I mean, right now, I think all of our registries are still open. The book drive period ended like last September. We wanted it to run for a couple months. That was back when we thought we were going to get a building quick, which we did not. We thought we were going to open fast by the fall of 22, which ended up not happening, which is that's why we stopped telling people like, yeah, this will happen by this period of time. Like we are not doing that anymore.
Learn the hard way.
Yeah, we told people like, yeah, we think by September, and then we're like, yeah, we think by October. We think by November, and then we're just like, yo, we're not doing this anymore.
We're tired of sounding dumb, actually.
Yeah.
No, Yeah, I think that's been also kind of like a discovery for us. Is this, this is the first time either of us has kind of ventured into um, something of this magnitude, and understanding how the local government works and the local organizations work symbiotically with each other, and then also with the land and the people that occupy it. I think it's a bit interesting, and we can honestly say that we didn't really know what was going on
Yeah.
prior to this. I understand why things are so bureaucratic at times, or why it feels like nothing gets done in our area.
Mhm.
Now, being in the driver's seat with this and kind of seeing uh, all of the miles that we drive by, all of the mountaintops and things that pass
Right.
us. It's been pretty interesting, I think.
Is that the hardest thing that you have to like kind of like go against while trying to like plan for this? Or has there any other more that be like, oh man, we didn't really think that this can happen, but it's happening to us?
I think it's been really important I'm sorry, DJ, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm not yours.
Yeah, I was just saying, I think it's been important for us to just uh, know that we're kind of on this course that isn't mapped out to the T, and we should expect to make calculated corrections when they arise. Um, we've been just staying open minded and optimistic about everything, and that's kind of been working for us. Again, this is new for us, so we don't actually know that we could have done it any easier or less painless or faster for us. But the amount of progression that we did get done as a completely, grassrooted new organization that was essentially thought up in a studio bedroom. I think it's been tremendous progress so far, and I think we're getting a little bit better every day.
Yeah, and just to go back, if people wanted to help us out in any way, I just realized that I went off a tangent off of off the initial question. I think our registries are still open. So we have a registry on Amazon, and we have a registry on Sister Sci-Fi. Sister Sci-Fi is a Black-owned bookstore out in California, which they actually um, just got book vending machines I've seen, which is the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yes. I
yeah.
think maybe that is how I found out about you, through her.
Ah.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
There
that's
you go.
probably it right
That would
there.
make sense. That would make sense.
Yes, I love watching everything. That vending machine, that was something that I used to be a high school librarian, and I wanted one of those so bad. That's shout out to her for getting that. That's so cool.
No, for real. Shout out to Sister Sci-Fi. Super, super early supporter. Like, had us on the show, super warm, welcoming, and just kind of embraced us. I mean, I think it was like a month in,
Yeah,
I
super
had reached
helpful
out.
out of the gate.
Yeah. I reached out, and it was just like love immediately. I mean, like, she got back to us, I think, in under an hour, and just, just all love instantaneously. So, um, we always have love for Sister Sci-Fi, and we'll always shout them out. Yeah, we have a. I think we were her first registry too. The first, I think we're the first registry on Sister Sci-Fi. And then we have the Amazon one. But we prefer Sister Sci-Fi because support a black owned bookstore,
Right on.
Absolutely.
and not Jeff Bezos. But we understand that Amazon is easy. And those registry links are on our website, which is theblacklibraryny.com. And then we also have a donation link through our website too. I'm pretty sure, almost 100% sure. Yeah, we have a donation button too.
So you all host several activities throughout each month that touch on financial literacy, photography, Black agriculture, and more. How have those workshops been received, and what has been the experience given, and what has the experience given you two since you began to offer these workshops?
So we haven't started that programming yet. We're still planning it out as we work on getting the space. So what we have right now is we've been doing monthly meetings. So every month we just have the community come in, tell them what we're doing, and then they just give us feedback, resources, and just the monthly meetings have been really incredible. I think our last one was our biggest one yet, and it was almost all new people. It seems like every time it's like a whole new group of people with like 2 to 5 people who came previously. But it's really incredible to me that we get a new group of people each time, and it keeps growing and growing. It just, to me, it shows that we are on the right path and that people are really excited about our project. And then we have some collaborations coming up as well that are kind of going to be like a little sneak peek. I'd say a couple of our collaborations will be like a little sneak peek of what we'll be offering in our space. But yeah, what we were thinking about with the programming is just a lot of things like the artist talks and artist workshops are things that I would see at Purchase College. Like they'd bring in artists and the artists would speak about their career from their time in college all the way to what they're doing in the present. And it's like super motivational as like, I was in college a little bit older. I was like 22 to 25, but as an 18 to 22-year-old, like traditional college age student, seeing that has to be incredibly motivating. Like, oh, I'm on the path to do that right there. So what I was thinking about with those is just, bring in people here to show our local artists like, hey, that's what you can do. That's the path that you're on, because we don't really have a lot of people here that we can be like, hey, that guy right there, that's the path to success, and you're on that path right now. So that's what we were thinking about when it comes to artist talks and artist workshops. The agricultural weekend is something I personally am super, super excited about, because we want it to be like a 2-day weekend where one day you learn how to grow crops, how to cultivate crops and things, and then the next day you learn how to actually like prepare and eat what you learned how to grow. And I think that learning how to be self-sustaining is incredibly important, especially in an area like this. It's very, like, I don't want to completely call it rural. Part of our county is super rural. Part of our county is like halfway rural. It's like, I'll just call it it's a rural area, but I think it's super important to know how to be self-sustaining here. But I mean, it's super important to be self-sustaining anywhere, really. And then economic workshops I think will be a big game changer for a lot of local people. Because I did not know anything about a mortgage until I was like 24 years old. I didn't know how to fix my credit score until I was like 22. And it's just like, I feel like people in more like affluent areas, they like know this stuff like immediately. Like they're just born and their parents are like, yo, you know how to get an 800 credit score?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's just something we want to bring here. I know a lot of people that I just have regular conversations with. They're like, how did you get your credit score to change? And, they just really don't know anything about any of those kinds of topics. So I think those things are going to be super, super helpful in turning around our area and bringing people more success.
So I had a question in regards to the library and what we've seen within the news regarding literature in itself. There's been a huge attack on literature.
Y'all are in Florida.
We are in
Oh my
Florida.
God.
I am so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
We are too.
We are in Florida. but we also know
Oh.
that this is a nationwide issue. Some places are not as heavily influenced by what's going on, but ours is, unfortunately. And so what we've seen is that there's a huge attack against specifically Black, Brown, Asian writers within our state, and having those books be removed. And just a few weeks ago, the teachers got the call that they said they had to remove their libraries from out of their classroom. And this is a very important part within the structure of a classroom when you're trying to teach children to become lifelong readers. It's good to have a nice library that children can go to and pull books from. And so this is a huge problem that our nation is going through. And I was just curious as to how the Black library will help to defend the freedom to read when called upon. Hopefully that is not something that will ever find its way up there. But for those who that are fighting the good fight, how would you lend your helping hand to them, if that is something that you all have thought about?
So I think oh,
Oh no, you got it. My bad.
no, I'm sorry. I was just saying, I think one way we certainly plan on combating that is having not only a display of banned books, but having an active book club that's going to be exploring different pieces of literature, as well as um, educating people on kind of the things that might oftentimes be kind of shelved because of how it might make somebody feel. We're not looking to piss anyone off, but we're also not looking to not step on any toes here. We're just trying to be as straightforward as possible about the the education and uplifting of the culture here. Um, yeah, I think that what's going on in different regions of the country right now is really scary. And like you said, I hope we don't actually have to deal with anything like that in this region. But I also wouldn't put it past certain areas that we live in. There's already kind of like this resistance to certain kinds of teaching in the county. Like I said, West is a little bit different than where we're at. So yeah, I think that what we're just trying to do is offer a sense of realistic identity to the people that already occupy this area, the Black people and the people of color that we're actually launching this project for. Um, I always kind of said it's about like, educating and then instilling like this sense of pride in who we are. And I think that starting there is kind of what will snowball effect into just the overall not being shy or meek about it. I think we just need to have like a open, realistic discussion, and everybody needs to be involved about the history that this place actually is. I don't mean to get on a tangent here, but I said something that was really interesting earlier in the week to a friend. But I said I think it's really weird how there's like um, ancient world history everywhere on the planet, but in America.
Hmm.
Isn't that like the weirdest thing? Like,
Yes.
there's no
Yeah.
like we don't have like world history here. Like, it started when the ships pulled up on shore. I don't know. Like, I think that right there is a part of the problem itself. So, um, yeah, anything that we really can do to address that, we will be doing. But I think more structurally, we're going to be focusing on book clubs and getting this literature into the next generation's hands so that it continues to live.
Hmm.
So this has been like this was like a first to lighten up the mood a little bit, because we are burning every day here in Florida, figuratively and literally. um when Veronica first told me about there's this Black library in New York, And I was like, are they expanding? Do they need branches? Can we be part of it? So that was the question. And I was like, how can I present this to them that we can be part of them? You know, even though we're not in New York. But the serious question is, are there plans for the Black Library to expand, not just in New York City, but maybe, you know, down the East Coast or here?
In my brain, I always envisioned it that way. Like it's like Mike was saying earlier about manifestation. I'm also a firm believer in that, and kind of just letting things flow and manifesting. But I don't know. I always had that vision in my head, and I feel like the reason why we called it the Black Library, or are labeling everything as like the Black Library NY, is part of that. I think it was the first week that we started the project. We had someone from Binghamton, which I think is an hour and a half away, right? Or oh, my bad. I think it's like an hour and a half away, Binghamton. And they had hit us up and they were like, "Hey, this sounds incredible. How do we start ours here?" And I'm just like, "Yo, we're in our first week. We do not know." Like our feet just hit the ground. Like we just learned how to walk and we're stumbling right now still. So, you know, but I think once we get our gears moving, then I'll probably go revisit that conversation with them. Once we can actually help positively influence and actually help them start it there. And then just try and keep expanding from there, because we definitely want to expand as much as possible. We don't want to be like, no, it's for Monticello and Monticello only. You know what I mean? If you're not from Monticello, don't even think about stepping foot in here. Like we don't want to be like that. So we want it to be as expansive as possible.
That's what's up. You know, this was originally a question, but I feel like we've answered the question earlier. So I'm just going to make this a statement. As you know, what you all have done really reminded me a lot of Arturo Schomburg. And for those who don't know who he is, his name is one of the most important when talking about the significance in archiving the lives and contribution of African Americans. And his work was purchased by the Carnegie Foundation to later be donated to the New York Public Library. And you all are like literally walking in this man's footsteps, you know, and among all other people who have set out to archive the lives, the art, the literature, everything that is extremely important in documenting who we are and trying to make sure that no one gets in the space of wanting to continue with the erasure that is always so prominent in everything that we do. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, just thank you so much for creating this space. We are so excited and cannot wait to see once it is fully up and running. I'm gonna be like, I want a t-shirt, I want a coaster, I want a mug,
Please do.
A tote bag.
I want all of the books. They won't be returned, so here's my money. I want to be able to experience that, and it would be amazing to be able to make that a field trip for us to come and visit you all, and see what it is that you all have created. So we are at the point of our conversation where we like to ask every guest on the show. We want to know, you have two choices. We want to know your top 5 favorite books of all time, or maybe there are books out there that you are really excited about and you want people to know. And because maybe we can put a spin on this for you all, because it's not just books that you all will have at the Black Library. So if there are any artists that you are either your top 5 artists or your top 5 artists that you want people to know, just put us on. What do you have?
Or music or people
or clothes?
You know.
I might have to mix and match. Mike, do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You can go first. I might need to do the same.
Okay, I'm gonna mix and match. So I'm gonna say, as I always mention, because I feel like it's a really important book, is Live from Death Row by Mumi Abu Jamal. I think is really important. To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, I think is incredibly important. Um, every album by Kid Cudi, I think is his whole discog is super important. I suffered from pretty bad depression when I was younger, and his music helped me out a lot. So, um, Kid Cudi's discog, um, Kerry James Marshall, the painter, and who am I giving the fifth spot to though? um, Number five. I think that people should go and look at the work that Theaster Gates is doing. That'll be my number five. It's like buying buildings from his old neighborhood and repurposing them. Um, I mean, doing stuff like putting a black library there, putting an art center there. You know what I mean? So that'll be my fifth.
All right, Michael.
I tried to gather all of my lists together while DJ was talking, but I don't know if I did that well enough. So I'm just gonna let it roll. I would say books. Um, Probably the book that I've been urging everybody to read as of late was Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Uh, I think that was a really important book for this time. I think a lot of people, I think, would have great benefit in understanding the messages that were communicated about communication in that book. I think so. That's really important. Um, I'd say one of my favorite pieces of literature, uh, a book that my brother put me on to, which is the autobiography of Prodigy, the rapper from Mobb Deep, who passed away a couple of years ago. I think that was a really good book. It was really, personal. I think he let a lot. I do like autobiographical books and nonfiction books a lot. Because I do like real life inspiration and drawing from that. But I wasn't really prepared for how personal that book was. It was very, very intimate in subject matter, and I think that was very vulnerable for somebody of his stature to have put out. I think it was extremely artistic. So yeah, definitely those two. Again, I think To Pimp a Butterfly is probably the most important rap album of my lifetime. Um, so that definitely is held high for me. Uh, I want to like put a movie in there, but there's too many for me to select from, and I feel like I'm just gonna hate myself for picking the wrong one later. Um, but uh, artist, I would say a photographer that goes by the name of Black Soap, based out in Brooklyn right now. He's a part of the Street Dreams Collective, and he does amazing work. And he's a really interesting, cool guy, and a bit of an inspiration for me for sure. Um, and another album, which is a new body of work by an artist, Ruben Vincent from North Carolina, who's a Jamla artist. He's signed to sort of Jay-Z and then sort of Jay-Z's engineer guru, but extremely interesting, dope, introspective, well thought brother, and I think that his music reflects that well.
As I was sitting here, I realized that I had 1,000 more questions that I wish that that I could ask you all, but for the sake of your time and the life that you have to lead, we will say goodbye. But I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show to talk about what you all are creating to celebrate Black History Month. This means the world to both of us, to see young people going out and doing what it is that you all are doing. It gives me so much hope for the future. And that we hope that we can continue to see you all on this journey for a very long time, and that you all continue to inspire so many people to do the thing, to just go out and do it. And you'll never know what will happen when you go out and you do the thing. So thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you for your time. And the only thing that we can offer you guys is, like, if you guys need any help from us down here or anything to bounce off ideas with, like, we are open. Hit us up. Like, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like, if you guys think of anything, any questions, whatever that you think, like, oh, maybe those two down there would know something about it, anything that we can help you achieve this greatness, please let us know, because we're gonna be like, let's make this happen. Whatever you guys need.
That's so appreciated. Like, we can't even begin to express that. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving us a platform to speak and to express what we got going on. And we're definitely going to be hitting you up. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
You're gonna be mad at some point that you gave it to us. We're gonna be utilizing it for sure.
No,
Never.
Thank you.
Never.
Nope. Yeah, you're gonna be sick and be like, hey, what's up, everybody? Nope. Expect that energy.
We'll have best of friends from the bottom of the map. That sounds good for us, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, on that note, we will bid you all adieu. Y'all have a good night. Go get you some rest so you can live to see another day and enjoy and bask in the sunlight of it. All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Y'all take care.
You too.
Have a good night.
Thanks again. Have a good night.
We hope you enjoyed our show.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Vulgar Geniuses.
Our theme song that you're nodding your head along to was produced by Sean Kantrowitz. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Dammit. That's SeanDammit.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast. See you soon.
Deuces.